So let me actually walk you through how we will learn this integration procedure. So first we will check the weather API, like how we are discussing yesterday, which is nothing but an external system, and we are hitting their server and getting how the response is generating. Right. This is first thing we will check. Second thing, we will check how we can make Salesforce as a host and call Salesforce as make Salesforce as a host and call the API, expose our API to other systems so that they can check and return us, right? So these two things we will first check. After then, we will check how we can call the integration procedure from a OmniScript, and then we will check how we can call integration procedure from an integration procedure. That means the exposed API that we have created, we will call that exposed API in after the weather API in the same integration procedure, right? So there will be IP to IP integration, right? We will check how integration procedure and call integration procedure. Second, IP to OS OmniScript. Okay, so these two things we will check. And third option that we will check is what if we try to create everything on the top of OS, right? We will not use integration procedure, and is there any possibility that we can control directly to OS level, right? So these three things we will check today. We will talk about the same weather API. There's some discussion that was not happened yesterday. We will continue from the same there, and then we will create the external expo. We will expose Salesforce as an external API. We will also check what is the response action and how we can generate the responses, right? Okay, so let's start. But today we will not talk about how the integration procedures get called from an OmniScript, because these are the sequential things that we need to discuss. Some topics will can only be described well when we actually call those from an OmniScript. Okay, let's start. Let me actually switch to Lightning mode. Yeah. Meanwhile, if you have any questions from the last class, we can discuss it now. Hmm. Yeah. So that's where the API. This is created. Yeah. So we have given the path name. We return the request. We have not used name credentials, but you can try with using name credentials also. Let's discuss other points. We have hard coded the value here, right? This, and we have also hard coded the, just a second. We have also hard coded the API app ID, right? And we are sending this into the body. See, in generally, we don't touch those, this basically time, because we already have a cap and we don't want to reduce the time. So we will keep this thing blank. This retry mechanism, like I was discussing yesterday, we can control the retry by giving one or two or three number. And if we are doing the retry, we need to go here and check. Uh, uh, yeah, rollback on error. We also need to check this checkbox if we are doing the retry, because we don't want to insert same data more than one time. Let's say 100 data we are inserting and 90 got inserted successfully, 10 is having exception. If you are doing the retry, then it will again send those hundreds, right? In that case, we don't want any scenario where it will again insert those 90s again. So that's why we need to check this checkbox, roll back on errors, right? Make sure both you will check uh, if you're doing the retry. Now, this is the something, yeah, we discussed about it. Now, this is something which is very important, and we can only get how to use them when we actually call our integration procedure from an OmniScript. Let me tell you what is this. This we already aware, right? Send and response transformation. We already discussed about it, how we can actually control which path we want to send and which path we are receiving, right? This is the add-on for that, right? In generally, when we discuss about the integration procedure, we not touch this send response. Even we can do, it's not like we can't use it, but this is something which is for this block additional input and output failure response. This is something which is advanced version of using this, right? So let me tell you what it is this. So see, this is saying send only additional input. That means if you restrict that, it will now only send those input, which is a part of this additional input. Okay. So yeah, that is probably you will not get it now. Why? Because we have not called it from anywhere. But yeah, in general, we will use it when we call it from a different Omni scripts, right? Because the nature, let me give you a behavior why they are giving you a spatial block. Even there is a already one block here. See, the nature of OmniScript is it will pass all the information from the previous tree, right? Now let's imagine you have called this integration procedure from a OmniScript, and OmniScript is and the step of calling this integration procedure is 10th step, let's say. So it will send all the input of those 10 steps to this integration procedure. Now, since it is an external system, it also maybe broke any security policy where we are exposing the unnecessary information to the external system, right? So that's why to handle this behavior, they have added this special section where if we check this checkbox, then here we need to define which tree we want to send, right? But here, if I check this checkbox, it will only send the information that we are defining here. Okay, so that is the major difference. Here we need to basically, if we are making it blank, that means it will send everything. And if we define any node, only this will send, right? That information will be sent. But here, if you just check this checkbox, it will not send anything. Okay, we need to additionally define which node we want to whitelist. Okay, so that is the difference. That is ease of use. So in most of the cases, people use this and this. That's totally subjective, which one you want to prefer. But I generally use this because it has more control. We'll discuss about it when we actually call this integration procedure from an OS. But yeah, make sure whenever you create a integration procedure, you have to use those things, right? And we always be very particular because see, in generally, when we get any requirement, there is no one person who's working on it, right? Someone is working from OmniScript side, someone is working from integration procedure side. But in general, as a lead, you need to take care what exactly place where you're calling this integration procedure and what is the feed you want to send. Okay, this is something not an individual developer will think. They will simply what test this thing from the preview and they will do it. But yeah, when we actually send this information in production, we have to take care that only specific nodes are sending. Okay, so this is something which is lead's responsibility, more kind of lead's responsibility to understand and to make sure the valid information is only exposing to the external systems, right? So this is something that no, this is the just opposite part. Return means this particular API, like this weather API, it is returning so much information, right? Maybe most of them is irrelevant for us. In that case, we can check this checkbox and we can now pair which one we want to view. Okay, so yeah, we can actually on. So why we do this? Because it will be ease of us for handling the exact information that we want. We don't want to read the entire full JSON. We just view a particular nodes and then it will work. There are also some scenario where we actually don't want any response, right? Let's say we want external system to update something in their database, right? We don't want any acknowledgement whether they have updated or not, but we want the acknowledgement if any exception happened, right? So in that case, you need to check this checkbox. If you check this checkbox, it will not return you anything. You don't need to bother what response the external system is returning, right? But in case of any error, you will get something in the error log. You need to specify key and values what error block you want to handle, right? We will discuss all those when we actually call our weather API from any Omni script, because there we will we will work in a scenario where we have additional informations as well, right? So there we will discuss about it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I have a
any
question
questions on
here.
it?
Yeah, yeah. See
Mhm,
here we mentioned the additional input or output failure. So first
mhm,
it says send only additional input.
mhm,
So then we have something called additional output. Then we have failure response.
mhm,
So basically all these 3 points are, see, like we are performing a call out. We are
mhm.
getting a response. On that top of the response, we are enabling that checkbox saying send only additional input. It's like I'm trying to understand where is this input and what is that output and failure response
Hmm.
respective to the call out response. So
Okay,
where this will fit.
right. Let me explain you this. So let's say this is our integration procedure, right? This integration procedure individually you will not use anywhere, right? Because this is a backend element. You have to use this in integration procedure somewhere. Okay, let's say you are using this integration procedure in your OmniScript. Okay,
Okay.
and in your OmniScript you are using this after making account call and or contact calls, right? So before you call this integration procedure, you are running a data raptor that is querying account information and all its contact information, right? After then you are using this integration procedure. If you don't check this checkbox, okay, then what will happen? Since you will call this integration procedure at the after you call account and contact, then by default, which is the nature of OmniScript, it will send all the JSON of those information to the external system as a JSON response, as a response section.
Okay.
Okay, but we only want the location information, which is relevant for this JSON, right? Unnecessarily, we are exposing account and all its contact information, which is
Exactly.
a maybe a security breach, right?
Yeah.
And they since we have sent this into the request section, that means this API now can access the account and contact informations,
Got it. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
to restrict this, we need to check this checkbox and we need to add a parameter from where we are actually getting this location. We only
Okay.
need to whitelist that node.
Yeah.
Apart from this, everything get neglected.
Yeah.
Okay,
Got it.
so this way we have a independency, like from anywhere we will call this method. We only need to take care where this information is stored,
Mm.
right? So this path you will only be understand if you have the knowledge from where you are calling this OmniScript. Sorry, this integration procedure, right?
Okay.
That's why I said it is leads more kind of a leads responsibility, because individual will only work on setting these things, right? They will not
Exactly.
take care, most of the cases they will not take care from where it is called and where it is not called, right? So this is something which is leads responsibility, who will take care from where this OmniScript is, sorry, this integration process is calling, and what is the entry point for it. So that's why it is more important. This is something which is uh, give you really high escalation if we forget this. Okay,
Mm.
this is something which is out just reverse of this. That means this API is returning so much information, wind information, weather information, sunset information, and so many things, let's say, and we only want to capture the temperature, let's say. So in that case, in our system, if we feed all the JSON that is written by
Service.
this service, then for us it will be a additional efforts to digest the JSON response. So just to make things easy, we
Mm.
just check this checkbox and only whitelist those nodes which actually we need to take care. Okay. The last option, which is this, is something, let's say we have made the call to
Mm.
the external system. In a return, they are returning something, let's say they are returning temperature. Okay. But let's say our requirement is only to update their backend system. That is the requirement. We are not making a call for, let's say this API is not for making any location or temperature information. We are just hitting this API. We are sending some data and we want their system to update the data. That is it, right?
Mm,
But we are not expecting any feed from them. So in
mm,
that case, we will check this checkbox. What it will does, we will not take care about any response that is written from this API, but we will take care response only when any exception happened. Okay,
okay.
let's say they said the information that you have, let's say they are storing a date field. Okay, but instead of date field, we are sending any number field.
Mm,
So in that case, they need to acknowledge us that the information that you're sending is not in a proper way. So that type of exception we need to handle, right?
mm,
For that, we need to know what exact exceptions is got thrown. So
mm,
for that, we will check this checkbox to
yeah,
understood
yeah,
what is the exception happened. But if for happy path, we will not take care anything, right?
okay, yeah.
We will discuss this when we actually call it from OmniScript, because there we will show what I mean by sending additional information. We will also check if we are not checking this checkbox, what information it is sending, and then we will check this checkbox and then check what how we have controlled that.
Mm,
Okay. Yeah. So this is it. Next thing is we hard coded this location thing and the API key, but in general we will not hard code this. The way of the best practice is you need to use the set values here. We will first define set values. Inside set values we will add a name, let's say city, and there we define the information. And again, this totally depends from where you're calling the external this integration procedure. Let's say the integration procedure has gone from an OmniScript and the information of city is stored in this path. Let's say, let me actually open the one yes. Let's say we are calling it here after this step, right? So I was saying this will send this information and this information as well. And let's say the city is there is no city. Let's say this is the city information. So in that case, we need to give it a full path like account, block, and industry or city, right? So same thing we need to configure here where we will need to do the account. Um, Next is block two. Then we need to give the city. Okay, so this way the city information will get stored here, and now we can directly use it here. Hmm, directly here. But you can also say why we have used set variable set values, why we can't directly copy this information, go there and use it inside the request option here like that here. The answer is yes, we can also do this, but it become some problematic thing. Why? Let me tell you. The purpose of set value is to declare all variables at one place, right? Whatever you will use it, we will try to add all those variables here in this level. If in case any changes happen in the OmniScript level, we don't need to go at every step, every block that is dragged and need to change the reference here, right? We don't need to go and change the reference here. Maybe we forgot to update some places. So the best way is just clear your variables in one place. So any changes happening into the parent node, you can directly do in one place, and it will be ease of use for us to just use the city here directly, right? The city directly. So that's why I was saying it is preferable to use set values. One option is also this. You can, just in case if anything happened, you can just copy the JSON, okay, which is stored in this unique ID. This unique ID. Okay, I think there they have encrypted the, but if you open this integration procedure in Classic, you will get the ID just go open the ID, you will get one field which actually stored all the JSON. There don't do any changes, but yeah, just search where you have used this account slash block2. This is how I do basically. Once I update, let's say something got changed here and I have updated all set values, but before we actually deploy it to production and we send this to QA, I will go manually and check all those JSON which stored in the backend object, that is there anything that is left for this name. Okay, because JSON, this is something which get stored into the JSON. But if you find that node, just try to understand which path you have used, but don't change anything directly to that JSON. It will be some, it may create some issue, because uh, when you change this, maybe in the back end, sometimes velocity change the JSON according to his rules and logic that they have written, right? So we just for verification purpose, just verify that you have updated all the changes from JSON, but don't make any change directly there, right? So let's do one thing now. Let's go to the preview and call the API. Use, let's say Delhi. Okay, go to the preview. Since we have hard coded everything, so we don't need to dynamically pass any parameter here. Let's directly hit the execute button and see. So you will see it is returning you the response here, right? Now let's talk about the, yeah, let's talk about this panel here. The debug mode here is a bit different than how we have in data raptors and all. Here you will see few couple of options, right? So this is something which shows you the full response, the entire response that you are sending and you are receiving, right? It will give you the entire JSON of that response. You will see the time, what is the actual time CPU is taking and what exactly you're doing it, right? So you can consider this as a full debug, right? Next is the exact API that you are hitting. What is the exact name, sorry, the exact path that you are querying. And this will be the identifier of which block you are calling. Let's say if I go there, we have only one, and if we drag another one, then there will be another entry here for that particular block. So this will be the identifier which block you are calling, right? Same goes here. This is something that return the JSON response. If you're sending any response, original input that if you're sending, right? This is the important thing, which is called execution sequence. Let's say you have called 10 sequence, okay, and you and something wrong happened. The code is not working as per the requirement, and you have now in the debug mode, like which thing is not working. In that case, you will see how many entries you logged here. Let's say in 10 you get 4 entries. That means those 4 is working fine. The problem is in the next node which you have configured. Let's say it's, if it is a, let's say another integration procedure. So in that case you will exactly pinpoint, okay, the problem is at this level. Okay, so how we basically debug? We simply go to the preview, check the sequence, and we will get the entry. Okay, after sequence 4 there's no entry. That means the problem is in sequence 4 or sequence 5, right? Next, you can also individual, let's say everything is working fine. There's no such hard stopping error that is stopping the execution, but still you are suspecting that something is wrong from the external system point of view. So what you need to do, you can check individuals output, which most of the cases you will use this. First, you will check the execution sequence. Second, you will check the exact output of that particular node. Let's say this is the exact output that it returned when we actually tried. Let me open the Postman. So this is the same output that Postman also returned, right? This is the same output that Postman returned, and this is the same output you will see here also, right? So this is this should be the exact what this API is returning, and you will see the log also, right? What is the debug you are sending, like which type of request is, what is the timeout, and what is the exact endpoint you're sending, what is the header information you're sending, right? So this thing you will check it directly from here. Okay. Any questions on the debug section? If any error happened, you will see this thing here. if any error happens, any options, you will see that directly here, this thing. Okay. So yeah, you will need to first check the sequence. Second, you need to check individual outputs of the APIs, and then you need to make sure which API is not working correctly. Okay. Now let's do one thing. Now let go and expose the API. Okay. Yeah. Let me clone this. Now what we will do, we will create yeah, the requirement is, let's say if external system is searching for account name, then we need to return the account value. This is the requirement. Okay. We also need to handle the negative scenarios, like if they are not sending anything, they in account name, like the account name is blank, then we need to send them like you're not sending anything, just put any valid value. This kind of structure we also need to handle. So let's say how we can do that. Again, we need to go to the integration procedures here. Okay, let's create new.
Is integration procedure only, helpful for doing the call? Okay, so we have actions defined. So yeah,
Yeah,
so that will tell us whether it's for doing the call out or some other. Okay, action designs.
yeah, action defines it. So here, let's say we in previous classes, when we actually do such kind of work, the identifier is the name, right? Let's say in data raptor, the identifier of the data raptor is name. But here this is different. The identifier is type and subtype, the combination of type and subtype. Okay, we'll discuss about it. But yeah, let me first write the name here, which is, let's say, API call. Okay. Here the type will be API and subtype will be call. Again, uh, type, maybe you can use the project name if you're dealing with the customer where there are different projects going on. Here you can write the name of your project, and here you can specify what exactly you are doing it, right? If you have only, if your there is only one project which is your project, then you can actually define the object or something at this level, which is something common. You think you will gonna repeat this thing for other things, then you need to use the same type. And in subtype, you can exactly describe what type of action you want to do. Right. So just by checking the name, it will be easier for others to verify. You can again write some description here also, right? But the identifier here will be the combination of your type and subtype. Okay. And what I mean by identifier, I will describe it in a while. But yeah, save it. The next thing is you need to drag a. Let's say we want to show something. We actually first drag a response section. Yeah. Now let's talk about the response section for a moment. Response section is something which let me actually show you. So this is the response section. If I try to, create the weather API as a host, and let's say I'm the person who's working on the weather API, and I'm the person who's dealing when someone call me, when someone return that API. So this is something with the JSON that is returned to the requester will be the response for the someone who's creating that. Getting it? So response section is something, let's say this API we have created, okay, and someone is calling my API. So what response I need to send them? That type of thing we need to define under response section. Okay, clear? That means your response action is the last option. After once the code reach to the response section, it will stop the execution. Getting it? You can consider this as a return statement of your Apex class. If I talk about, if I relate this with the Apex class. Uh, any questions? That's an important thing. The definition of response action you can imagine as a statement of your return statement. After once the code will reach to that level, it will stop working, right? It will simply return whatever you have configured in the response action, and it will then stop working. It will not send anything apart from that. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me do one thing. Let me actually first define the variables, and then we will discuss about it, and then it will be more clear. So here, when you are exposing your APIs, you need to first define some parameters. Like if I talk about this here, this API we are calling, right? So the parameters is queue and API app ID, right? These are the two parameters that this API is expecting. So let's see how we can create our own parameter. For that, we need to use the set values. Yeah, set values. Let me actually delete the response section. We'll come into it. Let's first create some values here, right? So here we need to go and create the element name. Now here, let's say the element name is account name. This is the element name. In value, we need to define 2%, and inside this we need to write any variable that actually hold this information. Right? So see, whenever our API get called, we need to use this account name. Like here, we use queue. So how this API create this queue is this way. They created a, if I talk about velocity, they created an integration procedure, and they define a set value. Inside the set value, one element name is account name. Okay. If in our requirement is we only want user to pass the account name, and based on that we will send the information, right? So this is something we need to expose to them, and this account name will be like that only. Okay. Any question at this level? Clear, right? Next thing is, now let's talk about the negative scenario first. Let's say they are, we will discuss about it what will be the URL of calling this, but let's say they have the URL, and they are instead passing any value to this account name, they are sending a blank value. In that case, we need to tell them, hey, you are sending a blank value, right? So let's say how we can configure that first. For that, we need, there is something in the groups, you will see something called conditional block. Conditional block, like if I relate this to Apex, how we will do it, we will first create a if condition and says if this block is null, then return some JSON structure, right? So for this configuration, we need to drag the conditional block. Okay. Inside the conditional block, we need to click here, and in formula, we need to write is blank. And here we need to type the name of our variable. Okay. Since we want to retrieve the value, to use 2% mark, and inside we need to write this. Right. We will, in further classes, we will discuss how we can use a nested if else or nested blocks. But here, just imagine this is the only condition. Okay. Maybe tomorrow we will discuss about this nesting, how and add a complex logic, and also improve the complexity of the current logic. But as of now, just consider we are now controlling if someone who's trying to hit our API, they have forgot to add anything into the account name, then how we should return. Now we have controlled this into the if condition. Now we need to return something to them. To return this, we need to use the response action. Okay. Inside response action, we need to go and define the header. This, no, not this. Request additional output response action. Yeah, this one only. Response action. And here we need to actually define what type of response we want to send. And here we need to check this. And here we will write those codes like let's status. Status will be 400, right? And let's say Mm, this should be the status code, or you can consider the error code or status code. And here status, we can maintain the status as false or error, right? And here we can write the status message. Definitely. Status, we will use error. There we will use error message as something that helps in like the input is null. Okay, something similar we can write. So what this response action will do, it will create a JSON where one node will be status code, which is 400, status will be error, and error message will be the input is null. So this is something we will return if the they are not sending any value into the account name. Okay, now this is up to this level. Any questions?
It's not always going to be like a key value, right? Sometime in a response, we might need to pass the nested object. Say like within one object, we need to create sub element, then we have to feed. So if that is a requirement, how we will handle.
Yeah, we can send all those things directly here. I mean, this will be considered as a node, but in this, you will see this is not a text only. This is support the formula, right? So here we need to actually define the entire path that you're saying that could be a JSON itself, right? So there we will define the full path of the JSON, and before that we need to create that JSON also.
Mm.
Okay, so this is nothing. If you click, you will see this is a formula. This is the same thing. I think I already shared one PDF file which is showing how to create the formulas, right? So
Yeah.
this has the control to handle the complex logics. But if you want to handle this thing in your way, like you don't want to handle in this way, you want to create the custom JSON, then yes, you can also do that. For that, you need to first handle that JSON. Okay, maybe that JSON is something you're returning from a data raptor, or it could be called itself from an integration procedure that you can handle in a variable, and you can directly add this variable here. You can use that percentage mark, and it will treat it as it is. Okay. Yeah. Now let's check what will be the URL of this. So for that we will use Workbench. Okay. Let's try it again. That's strange. Yeah, no, it worked. So here you need to go to the utilities, and there is option called yeah, REST Explorer. So let's say what URL we need to hit. So say here this will be the URL. First will be sorry. First is the service. Second is the REST, Apex REST. After this, you need to write the package name. If you're if you have installed communication, it will be CMT. If it is insurance, there will be different name. Then it will be version v1, and then you need to call the integration procedure. Here it will be the same always. This URL will be same always. Next thing that you need to do is the combination of the um, the type and subtype. Okay, so here the type is API, subtype is call. So it will be API underscore call. If you call it something else, so make sure you use underscore in between. Okay, so API underscore call will be the identifier here because our type is API and subtype is call. Right? Type is API, subtype is call. It's not this value. Okay, make sure integration procedure name is not the identifier. Your type and subtype is the identifier here. Okay. Next is this account name. And from where you will get it, it is the same behavior. You will get it from the account name, whatever element you have defined here. It will be treated as this only. Okay, so that's why I was saying we need to create a set value to define all the element name. Now this element name is now a global element. That means other systems can also access that. Okay, so that is why we have declared it inside the set values. Now let me copy this URL and let's go there and hit enter. Workbench is having issues. Let's try it again. Oh, yeah. Before we actually make a call out, we need to activate the integration procedure. That is must. Okay. So before you actually expose this, you need to make sure the you activate at least one version. Okay. Yeah. If you don't activate, it will say nothing found in with this URL. Right. Now you will see whatever we have configured, it is throwing the same thing here, right? Status is 400, status code 400, status is error, and error message is this, right? So this is how we actually expose the API. If let's say if we don't use this conditional block, then what will happen? Let's say we are not using this conditional block. In that case, even they pass any valid value, it will always return this response that we have configured here, additional response. Okay, this will always return this. Why? Because once the code will reach to this end response action, it will not gonna uh, it will not gonna fire any script that is defined after this stage. Okay, like I said, you can consider this as a return statement of your Apex method. Once you reach to the return method, return statement, it will bypass all these things and it will exit from this method, right? The same thing will happen here. That's why I use the conditional block. It is an important thing to understand that response action, once you show something inside response action, your further code will not work. Okay, so make sure you are using a valid condition here, right? Now let's do one thing. Let's pass any valid value here and see how it will behave. Let's say we are passing Delhi. Okay. Clicking on this execute, you will see nothing is written. Why nothing is written? Because after this step, we have not configured any logic. Okay, so this is how we actually expose one API. Now let's do one thing. Let's actually try to understand how what will happen if we are actually calling it a valid value. Yeah. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, we can discuss that. For that, I'm deactivating this version. Okay, so see, whatever value you will define, this will be accessible for external systems as well. Now, this is the same behavior for OmniScript also. Like the question that you were asking, how we can access, how we can pass the record ID here, right? So the answer here is any information you want to store here, it will be considered as external URL. It will be part of the URL, and from URL we can give it. And how we can make sure that this value is not something we commit into any code, right? Because this value will be flexible, right? Anyone can update this value. So for that purpose, we need to create additional VF page that you do, and there we need to pass this. But since no one want to actually use VF pages, so for that we need to access this through Lightning components. And in Lightning, we need to use the tokens. Okay, in tokens we need to define the we need to give the exact values which we want to pass into it. Okay, we'll discuss about it, but yeah, I just thought to explain this also. Now let's do one thing. Let's yeah, be now after this step, we need to fire a data raptor so that it will make the account query and return the response. For that, we need to use a data raptor extract action after this stage. Here we don't need to, write a conditional block, because if this will if once code will go into it, it will not execute it, right? So we don't need to add any else block here, right? Now here we need to, let's do one thing. Let's first create a data raptor. Let's use account search. We already have account search. Let's see if we can use the same. Here it is saying details, name, like, yeah, this is the same thing we can use. The org that I'm using, I think this is the same org, right? Okay, just check if you have the access of this org. Just try to check this. If not, I will create, I will share the access of this org also. I think I logged into a different org because I have not created this account search. Let's check the org.
Right
Will
now,
use.
you tap into a org where the first org that you created, on a first class, you created one org. On that org right now you are. The expiry date says 30 days remaining. That means the older one.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So we will use the same here as well. The name says name here. So let's see how we can pass the parameters here. So this is the same behavior here also. We need to pass the name exactly, which is the set value here. It is account name, right? So we can pass the account name here. Right? Make sure you copy actually. It's just case sensitive, and here in the value you can define the value which is name. Right, this name will be something which is you have passed here, right? So yeah, this will be the name, and yeah, this will be given into the detail section. So let's check this out. Let's query, let's check if we have any account that we can query. Let's say we will call Acme. Oh, in the JSON, it will not show anything, because after this again we have not configured anything into the JSON response. So it will not show anything here, but we will check this if we call it here. This is the account name. This is the value. Set value is account name. Yeah, this is account. Need to hit this again. Your account name is Acme. We need to activate this. Or see, do one thing. Let me also add something so that it will return. Okay. So for that, what we need to do is we need to drag a conditional block again. Okay. This time we need to verify whatever server. Let me actually check this. The output. There's ID, right? What we will do, we will check if the detail ID is not null, then we will show this response. Okay. In this condition, let's add that condition now. Okay, so here what we need to do is see, yeah. So here is a difference and how we actually access the value. In the last class, I told you, since this is integration procedure and there's no UI element, right? That means all the value that we can access, let's say we want to access some value inside this data raptor. So in that case, we need to start the node from this data raptor, right? So here, what we need to use not and then is blank, and inside the condition we need to use double percentage, and here we need to actually start the node from the data raptor, which is this. Okay, after this data raptor we need to use the uh, parent node, which is details, and after that we need to use the ID. Okay, so previously, if we, let's say we are controlling this from OmniScript, then there we don't need to define the name of the data raptor. We can directly access the node here. But since it is not a UI element, that means the identifier of details ID will not be exactly pinpoint if you not define which action you are referring to. Okay, so that is the difference here. Make sure you follow this, otherwise the value you will not get. Here you need to give, if I want to access anything in set value, no, not set value. If I want to access anything in this response or somewhere, we need to define this like that only. We need to give the element name, and then we need to give the exact value that that element is returning. Okay. So that's a difference here. Otherwise, they will not understand what value you are referring or what is, or anything you want to access, right? So yeah, for that let's configure the mm, response section again. Inside the response section, go to the additional response. Check this checkbox. Here we will use status as access, and here we will use state. Just let it save. Yeah. Then, oh, what is happening? That's strange. Uh, you can also check this in JSON here, and actually on this. I'm using this because in that there is some issue. It was automatically clearing that out. Where we can use a status code as 200, and inside the message can use OK. So yeah, let's switch it back. Okay, so it is configured correctly. All right, so let's do one thing. We have configured fine. Now let's go to the workbench. Yeah, activate this. Okay, now let's go here and click on execute. Okay, so it is saying apex error. Boolean invalid conversion and runtime list any to boolean. Okay, let's check it out. So I think this is referring something here. Condition is looking good. Is blank data raptor one details ID. Let's do one thing. Let me remove this condition and add it outside. And then I will cross verify this. Let's also deactivate this. Okay, so if this not satisfy, it will always go and terminate the execution after this step, right? So yeah, let's activate that again. Now let's fire it again. Okay, you will see success response. That means problem is with this block. Let's also figure it out. Deactivate the version. Drag inside it. Activate that and use it. Is not blank data. Let's use ID outside. Okay, and directly access the ID without any node. And then check. I will tell you what I'm doing here. Okay, now what I did, I dragged the response under the block again, and here I have I thought I updated it. The problem is because of accessing the value inside a element. I will discuss you how we can do that, but yeah, as of now for today's class, I'm just directly accessing this parameter outside it. Right. So what I did is in the Omni script, sorry, in the data raptor, I have removed this ID from the details tab. Okay, now it is outside this ID. So that means we can access directly this value of this ID, right, by defining the data raptor. Now, let me activate that. Yeah, now let's call it again. Still it is fading. List, why it is a list? Okay. The problem is, see, can anyone help me? What is the problem here?
Maybe returning array.
Yeah, why it is returning array?
Because when we take the input, it was on array format. Somewhere I saw there.
No, actually, we are searching this Acme, right?
More
And we
than
have more than one record for Acme. That means the JSON, let me actually show you. If I use Acme here, you
more
will
than
see there are multiple IDs, there are multiple details, right? That's why, since now this is an array, right? This starting is an array, and here we have not disclosed any option for array. That's why it is saying it is expecting a list of array, but it the expectation is Boolean, but it is returning list of array, right? So in the next class, I will create the lab and will show you how we can handle the array part also. Okay. As of now, let me search a account that is only having one record, maybe test 123. Okay, it has only one value. So let's go and change it. No, this is not working. Let me. Hmm. That's a rare scenario. Workbench is not working. And for this also, it is returning the same information. Mm. And it should access the value. Let me show you the value is count name. Invalid conversion from runtime to any to boolean 400 exception type. USD controller invalid conversion from runtime list to that's strange. We are still sending the one information. It is saying 0 and 1. Okay, so what I will do, I will try to explore what this exception is, and maybe tomorrow we will take it from there only. Here I can see we're only sending one information. Hmm. Mhm. Okay, so what I will do, I will check this thing offline, and tomorrow we will check how can we call a list. Okay, so this time I try to use only one data, and since it is also not working. So from tomorrow we will check both things. One, if we have only one record, and what if we have multiple records. So how we can add the condition for that only. Okay, I think we should add a condition for size here instead of making it a blank check. Okay, so any questions on it? How we expose the API? Is there any questions related to that? The process will remain the same. You need to first define the name in the element name. Okay, the URL will be in this format only. It will always be in this format. Here you only need to change at this level and at this level. Okay, if it is CMT, no need to change. If it is another package, then you need to make the exact API name here. This will always remain the same. Here you need to just define and what parameters you're sending. And the similar ways, if there are multiple parameters, you need to append this through and only. Okay. So yeah, in tomorrow's class, we will check how we can send how we will handle if the information that user is returning is containing any list, then how we can add the checks, proper checks here. Okay. All right. Any questions? We'll also try to access this URL through work inside the Postman, and we'll check how we can actually inside apart from Workbench, how we can call this through Postman, right? Okay. If no questions, we can break it today. Tomorrow, we will continue at the same time, 8, not 8:30. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.